Welcome back to part 2 of my F1 animation tutorial with launch control. If you haven't already, make sure to watch the previous parts and then come back to this one. You can download the launch control add-on by using my affiliate link in the description. Doing so will also help support the channel at no extra cost to you. As always, you can download this entire blend file by becoming a member on my Patreon. So consider becoming a member and get access to my past and future tutorial project files. Alright, now let's continue with the tutorial. Okay, so now for the racetrack environment, let's add some side advertisement banners that you usually see on these racetracks. So click your racetrack, let's go into edit mode. And then what we're going to do is let's go to top view. Let's use the vertex select mode. And what we can do is hit Control R on our keyboard, and then we'll add in a loop cut like this. So with this yellow outline you see here, just click, and we'll add it right here. Click. Okay, now let's tweak some of the points on the racetrack. So again, stay in top view, and we'll select these points right here. Or let's go into wireframe and let's select this point. Let's zoom in. We got to zoom in more. That point right there. And we're just going to move it ahead of the fence here. So all of these points right here, just move ahead of the fence. And it's looking good. We could go ahead and move this point here ahead of the fence. This one too, we can go move it here. This one up here. This one needs to be ahead of the fence. This one as well. I'm just going to use the face select tool. I'll hold Alt and then select these faces right here. And it'll form a row like this. And now, depending on how it looks, you can go ahead and just go back and tweak it again. Again, some of this looks a bit uneven. So if you want, you can go ahead and then just tweak it a bit. Again, it's not really that important because we pass by these banners pretty quick. So again, let's use the face select tool, hold Alt, and select these faces like this. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to hit E to extrude up. And we don't want to make them too big. Let's hit G and then Z. Let's bring it down a bit. We just want to make them slightly taller than the cars. Nice. Then we'll use the edge select tool, select the edges like this, then hit E to extrude, and then Z to extrude upwards, making some giant fences. And then what we can do is go to the modifiers, add a wireframe modifier. And then go to edit mode, hit Control R, add in some loop cuts. Like that. Click. And then go back into object mode. And we can make the fence very thick by increasing the thickness here. And then what I can do is I can select the fences and then I can hold Shift, select the entire track, hit Alt plus D to duplicate it, right click to set it back in place, and then I can rotate it by hitting R on my keyboard, and then Z, and then I can do 180, enter. And then I can just connect it with our first track. So let's start adding some materials to the road here. So before I do that, make sure you save your work. And then I'm going to go into the render properties here. I'm going to change the cycles. I'm going to change the device to GPU for fast rendering, highly recommended. And make sure you enable your GPU in your preferences by going to the system tab right here and make sure your GPU is enabled. Then we will change the max samples to 150. And yes, we could go ahead. Let's just hide our cars for a second. We can just go into rendered mode now to see what it's looking like. And okay, we need some world lighting as well. So let's go ahead and add some world lighting. So let's switch to the world properties and we're going to add in an HDRI for the world lighting. So Shift A, we'll search for environment texture like this, plug that into the background color, and then I'm going to search for an HDRI that I like to use. So here are all my HDRIs. I'll leave a link in the description for the same HDRI that I'm using. It's called Shanghai Riverside right here, 4K EXR, open image. You can go with 2K too. You can get away with that as well, but I'm using the 4K version. And then we're also going to add in a texture coordinate and mapping coordinate so we can control the rotation of the HDRI. So click on your image texture, hit Control T, and then let's go into render mode. And there it is. So if you can tell the road here is looking a little flat. And also we got to adjust this. So let's go into edit mode. Let's hover over this. I'm going to hold Alt. I use the face select tool. I'm going to hover over this, hit Alt, and then click. And then make sure it's touching the floors. There it is. Then let's click on our road. Let's go into material properties. Let's switch to shader or object. Okay, so with the road selected, we are going to go to the shader editor right here, hit Shift A, we'll add in a bump node. So you can search for bump, and then it'll be right there, and plug the normal into the normal of the principal BSDF. Next, I'm going to do Shift A, and we'll add in a noise texture. Plug the color into the height. And then we should start seeing some bumps here if we increase the detail, and if we also increase the roughness. If you still don't see anything, and I still don't see anything, and that's because the distance and filter for some reason on my bump node is different here. So they should be set to 1 and 1. Okay, and then you should see some bumps on the road like this, which is nice. And now we could just, adjust the detail to whatever we like. I'll put it to 9, and I'll keep the roughness at, something like that. Okay. Now we can bring back our Red Bull model and our Aston model. And then, you know what? We can adjust the location of the HDRI as well. So I'm going to go into the world settings. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to rotate the HDRI. Something like this. I feel like the bump strength on the road is way too strong. So let's go back to the shader editor. And we want the strength, we can just, decrease by a lot. Okay, next we could start adding some banners onto the sides right here. So to do that, we can go into edit mode and we can start selecting the faces on the side like this. So for example, I'm going to select these 3 faces right here, or these 4, and I'm going to add in a new material by hitting the plus icon right here. Then you can just hit new, and we can call this banner 1. And then what I can do is I can do Shift A, I can add in an image texture, and then I can plug this color into the base color, and then open up a logo that I want to use to put onto the sides. And for example, I can throw on any logo of my choice. So I can throw on the Netflix logo, for example, like this. Again, you can download these logos, online, but all we have to do is just hit assign, and then we can start seeing it, but we still don't see it even though we hit assign, and that's because we got to unwrap it. So hit U, and then we got to unwrap using the Smart UV Project. Unwrap. And then we can go to the UV editor, and we can adjust it over here. So I'll hit R on my keyboard, and then I'll rotate it by 90 degrees, enter, and then I can just adjust it like this. I can hit S and then Y on my keyboard to scale it like that, and then S and then X. Let me go to material preview. It seems to be upside down, so I can just rotate it by hitting R and then 180 like that. And there we go. We have the logo, Netflix logo on the side, like a banner. And you can continue doing this for each of the faces. So I can select these 4 faces like this. Let's go back to here. We new. Call this banner 2. You go to the editor and just image texture. Plug in and add another logo and add another logo. So I have my open. Hit U, so reject, unwrap, and then I'll get a sign. And then go to the UV editor again. Hit R, 190, enter. So I'm going to hit R, go, and just split. And like I said, I can continue doing this. So I can just continue doing this with the rest of the faces and keep adding as many banners on the side as I want. Okay, so yeah, you can continue doing that, but for now, let me move on to the next step, which is adding a character into each of these vehicles. So let's go back to the start right here, where they start, and then you know what I can do? You can add in a character, a racing character. Now, the easiest character you can use is a character from Mixamo. So what you can do is you can go on Mixamo, and then you can go to characters and search for racer. And then there he is. You can just use this character. And then for the animation of him driving, you can just go to animations and then just type in drive. And then you can use this one right here. So I can just go ahead and download that FBX, and then I'll just hit download. Okay, so once you have him downloaded, you can just go over here, right click. We'll make a new collection. We'll call it race driver, import FBX, and then we can search for the racer driver that we just downloaded. So wherever you downloaded him, go find him, and then you can import him. So mine is right here. It's called the driving, and then I'll just hit import FBX. There he is. Okay, so I can actually place him. I'll place him in the Red Bull car first. So we can just go here, something like that. And what we can do is we can actually click on the mesh itself, go into edit mode, go to wireframe, and we don't need the bottom half of his body. So we can just delete that. So into wireframe, and then we can just delete the bottom half like this. Okay, and then all you have to do is just click on the armature, and then shift click the car body like this, Control P, and then parent it to the empty. And now let's do the same thing with this, click on this, and then parent it, hold shift, click on this, parent it to the body, and then if you hit play, the driver should stick and stay with the car. And they do. I would go ahead and zoom in and adjust the materials on the helmets by going to material properties and just making sure, it's a little more reflective. So let's go over here and let's go into, edit mode, and let's just select the helmet like this. And then we can hit the plus icon and we'll add in helmet flexion. Hit assign, and then we can just do roughness 0, and it can be dark, making it a bit more shiny, like that. And we'll do the same with this. So we'll just deselect and then select the entire helmet. Hit the plus icon. We'll do helmet base, and again hit assign, and then we can just make it dark again and make it metallic and a little bit more rough. And we can even change the body as well. We can go into the shader editor, go to the shader tab like this. We can go to the body, and we can change the color of the body. So let's go to Shift A. Let's do hue saturation value. Go over here, and then we can just change the color like this. Something like blue, I guess. Yeah, something like that. You know what I'm going to end up doing though? I might just end up using a even higher quality model if your computer can handle it. I'm going to end up using a model called Race Car Driver Dave, which is included in the Launch Control add-on. So I'll probably end up replacing one of, if not both of them, with Race Car Driver Dave. And yeah. Okay, to get some inspiration for some epic camera angles, I'm going to use the F1 movie as inspiration or as reference to get some nice camera angles. So let me see some clips from the F1 trailer to see what type of camera angles that I want to include in my animation right here. So that's pretty cool right there. This is a nice angle. Ooh, I really love this angle right here. So let's try to get this for our animation. We can go zoom in. Let's collapse this window like this. And we already have a camera angle right here, but we'll save that for another one. Let's actually zoom in to our first Red Bull model right here. We can actually go into material preview. Okay. And then we could, let's move this bones back into the way. Let's get them out of the way. But yeah, I think it looked something like this. If I go back and check, Yeah, something like that. Okay, so then all you have to do is just go hit N, and then we could go down and make sure you're on the Red Bull F1, not the Aston. So Red Bull F1, and then let's just go on where cinematography is. And instead of the follow camera, we're going to use a mounted camera because it looks like they mounted this camera onto the car. So let's do mounted camera. Okay. And the focal length is super wide. So let's go 11. Yeah. And we could just zoom in like this. We could turn it here. That might be too wide. You know what? I think that's too wide. Let's go 20. Yeah, 20 is a little better. And let's just adjust it. Make it 0. Something like that works. Yeah, zoom in a little more. Yeah. You play. Something like that works as well. And now with all these camera angles, you also want to add some subtle shake. Let's add some subtle shake by going over here. We can click on this keyframe right here, the X rotation, just click over here, which adds a keyframe right there. Then we can go to the graph editor and we could just go to modifiers. Let's actually go over here, click on the X rotation, go to modifiers, and we'll add in a noise modifier. Now, if you just hit home on your keyboard, as that is way too like strong. Like that's crazy strong. Okay, so let's actually decrease that over here, the strength. Let's decrease it to like something like something like 0.1. And we can increase the scale to smooth it out. Yeah, that's a bit too strong. Let's actually go a little slower. 0.05. Yeah. And we can increase the scale to smooth it out. Maybe a little more. It's up to you how much you want it, but I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's do another camera angle now. I like this one right here. This is really cool. It looks like the camera is mounted. Let me go back. So it looks like the camera is mounted like this. So let's start off like that. Let's go over like right here, right? It's mounted like this or like this. Something like that, right? Let's go hit N. Let's do mounted camera. Again, we got to make the focal length like 20. Let's zoom out. We kind of want to make it straight like this and then move it down. See what that looks like. Yeah. I think that matches it a bit more. And then we want to have it rotate onto our guy right here. So, you know what? Let's go up a bit. Something like that. Maybe somewhere here we could actually. Let's make it straight. And then, yeah. Like 18. It's looking down a lot, so let's tilt it like this. I think something like that would work. So let's start it at frame 265. Right here is good. 265. We can hit I and then I. By the way, automatically the animation of your keyframes are going to be set to linear. It should be set to linear. So make sure that's set to linear and then you can just save preferences. But for this one, let's just hit play. We'll do like at 300, frame 300 right here. We'll have the camera turn like this, like from the movie. And then we can just hit I and then I. And then for the keyframes, you can just hit A and then right click, and then you can do Bezier. Yeah. Now, if you go back to timeline, we can actually make this a bit faster. So it can be like, and you know what? We also got to add some shake as well. So let's go over here. Again, you want to go to the graph editor, sorry. Let's open this up. Let's open object transformation. Let's go to X rotation. Let's go to modifiers and we'll add in a noise modifier. And the strength is going to be really low, like 0.03. Okay, cool. And by the way, you got to make sure this is render region, crop to render region is checked, and then you can go into render mode. Depending on each shot, you can change the HDRI location or rotation. So again, you can always change it. Change up the lighting for each angle. It doesn't have to be the exact same for every single one. That's not what I always do. I always change it up just to get some different lighting on our car. Let's actually add in another camera angle. Let's go to start. And we'll use this one now. So let's go to view and we'll make this the active camera. And this is the follow cam. So what we're going to do is we'll actually have it, we'll start on frame 72. Let's go back to timeline. We'll start frame 72 and we'll move the camera to the side. Have it low like this. That's too low. Okay. And it will start off. I don't know, something like this. Like on frame 72, you can hit I and then I to add in a keyframe right there, and then we'll hit play. And then let's go, let's say on frame 200. Right before the turn happens, right before the turn, I say right here, we could move the camera over. So instead of using this transformation, I can actually hit shift on my keyboard, and then I don't know what this button's called on your keyboard. You can just hit this button like that, and then it allows you to move with your keyboard, so the WASD key, and you can scroll on your mouse wheel to make it faster. And yeah, something like this could work. And then I can tilt it. And then just hit I and then I. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. This camera angle, focal length is 50. We want to make that 24. So it'll end at 180. And if you believe the cars are going too fast here, you can always adjust the speed. Go to wire or material preview. And then right over here, you can see that it goes out of frame a little bit. You can adjust the camera right here. Maybe, move it back a bit. Down. Hit I, and then see what that looks like. We can do one more. Ooh, I like this camera angle as well. So you can try this too. This is a very cool POV angle. Obviously, we can just mount it on top like this. Maybe let's go over here, actually. You know what? Let's go timeline. Maybe we can go right there. So was camera. It was something like this, right? It was on top. A little down. It was on his helmet. It was like this. It was like this. So let's hit N, and then we can just add in a mounted cam. Again, it looks to be pretty wide. That is a super wide camera focal length. So let's do 18. I think that works. Yeah, something like that. You probably have to animate his arms then if you're going to use this camera angle, moving the steering wheel. But yeah, this works just fine as well. Okay, so for example, I'll render out this camera angle and then I'll show you what I do in DaVinci Resolve. So I'll find a place to save this camera angle. I'll make a new folder for it, call it top POV F1 shot, and then double click and I'll hit accept. It'll be a PNG sequence at 24 frames per second frames. And then for the max samples, you can get away with 100 samples if you have a slow computer, but I do 200. And then I'll use denoise, motion blur on, and then this is the view transform settings right here. So this is what it looks like in the rendered view right here. And yeah, I'll go ahead and then just hit render animation. Okay, so once it's done rendering, it'll be saved into a folder like this. And then what I do is I go into DaVinci Resolve, and then I can just go ahead and drag this into my DaVinci Resolve project like this. And it'll automatically turn it into a video file. And then I'll go to the timeline. I'll drag it onto my timeline like this. This is what it looks like. And then what I do is I start my color grading process over here. So for the final render, what I did was I used an effect called the Film Look Creator right here. I don't think this is free. I think this effect is offered in the paid version or the studio version of DaVinci Resolve. But yeah, I'm just showing you what I did for my final render. I just dragged this on and I gave it this filmic sort of color grading. And then I go to the effects right here. This is where the Film Look Creator is. And I change it to cinematic. And then I can just mess around with the settings over here. Exposure, contrast, and yeah, this is what the final shot looks like. And then what I do is I go back to Blender and then I'll render out another camera angle. So there's this camera angle right here. I'll switch it to the active. What I do is I'll go and then I'll find a new place to save this camera angle. So make a new folder for it. We'll call it, main shot 1, and then I'll just repeat the process. I'll just end up rendering the animation, making sure that I switch up the lighting if I don't like the lighting of how it looks. That's it for this tutorial. If you found this helpful, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more Blender tutorials like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.